She ran, because she refused to be handed over to a cruel man, far too old to be her husband. That night, believing she was running into the arms of the great love of her life, she discovered something worse than rejection. She overheard the cruel plans, the lies, and everything he truly thought of her. Betrayed, humiliated, and with no way out, she believed she had lost everything. Until she stumbled into a stranger in the darkness. In an act of desperation, she did the unthinkable. She asked that man to marry her, never imagining she was offering her life to the Alpha King of another realm, the most powerful, the most coveted, the most dangerous of them all. The decision to run had not been born of courage. It had been born of desperation. Serena watched herself in the mirror of her chambers, fingers trembling as she fastened the last jewel into her auburn hair. The reflection staring back didn't seem like her own. A woman with red, swollen eyes, skin too pale, lips pressed into a thin line of determination. In 3 days, I will belong to Lord Harrington. The thought struck like a brutal blow that stole the air from her lungs. 3 days. 72 hours until her father would hand her over like prized cattle to a man old enough to be her grandfather, whose filthy, sweaty hands had touched her face during the betrothal dinner as if he already had the right. But surviving was not living, and Serena had tasted what it meant to live during those secret months with David. The memories came without permission. David smiling at her in the moonlit gardens, their fingers intertwined. David whispering promises against her lips during stolen kisses behind the stables. David writing letters she hid between pages of books. "Let's run away," he'd written in his last letter. "I'll find a way. Trust me." And she had trusted him. Heaven, how she had trusted him. The youngest maid, Grace, you entered carrying a tray of tea that neither would touch. "The guards at the East Tower will be changing shifts in 1 hour," Grace whispered, nervous eyes darting toward the closed door. "You'll have 15 minutes to cross the servants' corridor and descend into the tunnels." Serena nodded, throat too tight to speak. 15 minutes between imprisonment and freedom. "And David?" Her voice came out weaker than intended. Did you deliver my message?" "I gave it to him personally this morning. He said he'll be waiting at the tavern on the edge of the village, just as you asked." Relief and anxiety mixed in Serena's chest. He loves me. This will work. The velvet pouch resting heavy against her waist beneath the dark cloak was proof of her determination. Everything she owned in the world, all her wealth accumulated since childhood. I'll give it all to him. Every coin, every jewel. "My lady," Grace touched her arm gently. "There's still time to change your mind." "Then they'll catch me," Serena said firmly. "But I have to try. I have to choose my own fate, even if only for 1 night." Lord Harrison of Ravenwood was not a cruel man by nature, but his ambition was cold and calculated. His only daughter had always been, in his eyes, a political tool to be used at the right moment. Marriage to Lord Harrington would bring land, influence, an alliance that would strengthen Ravenwood's position. But no one had ever asked what Serena wanted. "It's time, my lady," Grace said, her face pale. "The guards have just left." Serena took the dark cloak and pulled the hood over her head. "Thank you for everything." She clasped the maid's hands. "When David and I are safe, I'll send the payment I promised." "Just stay safe, my lady. Just be happy." The tunnels were narrow and stifling. Ancient dust clung to her skin. Cold stones scraped her fingers as she hurried forward. She didn't stop. She didn't think. She simply moved. The tunnels finally opened into a hidden exit near the outer stables. Serena pushed the door open, and cool night air struck her like a slap. Freedom! The tavern stood at the edge of the village where travelers stopped before continuing north. Warm light spilled through the windows. "David will be there," he promised. She pushed open the tavern door. Heat hit her first, the smell of beer and smoke and sweaty bodies. Her eyes scanned the room, searching. Where is he? And then she saw him. David was sitting in a dark corner, leaning over a table with 2 other men. The smile on his face was wide, animated. He came. He really came. but relief was quickly replaced by confusion. He brought other people. Why? Unease grew in her chest. Maybe they're people who will help us, she tried to convince herself. But something about his body language was wrong. Too relaxed. Too confident. Serena began to move toward him, but instinct made her hesitate. Instead, she slipped between tables, approaching from a different angle where she could hear without being seen. It had to be her imagination. Then David's words struck her like physical blows. She should be on her way now, he was saying, probably crawling through the castle tunnels at this very moment, thinking she's being so clever. One of the men laughed, harsh, cruel. And she really believes you're going to run away with her? A commoner with Lord Harrison's daughter? Believes. David leaned back, grin wide. She's completely convinced. You should have seen the way she looked at me during our secret meetings, like I was some kind of romantic hero from her stupid books. David, save me. David, take me away. David, I love you. He mimicked her voice, high and whiny, and the men burst into laughter. No, this cannot be happening. So the plan stays the same? The older man asked. Exactly. David took a satisfied swig of beer. You'll escort us along the northern roads like hired guards. The fool will feel safe, even protected. And when we reach Thornwood Forest? The younger man leaned forward. David's smile widened, predatory and cruel. Then we do exactly what we planned. I take all her gold, all the jewels that spoiled brat has been hoarding, and the three of us split the fortune. Then we leave her there, alone and with nothing, far enough from home that she can't easily return. A fortune split 3 ways, the older man murmured, eyes gleaming with greed. Enough to buy land, start businesses, live like lords. David raised his tankard in a mocking toast. And all we have to do is pretend to help a lovesick fool for a few hours. And if she causes trouble afterward? The younger man asked. David shrugged with cruel indifference. Who will believe her? A desperate noblewoman who ran away and was abandoned in the forest. They'll think she lost her mind from shame. She should arrive any moment now. David checked the moon's position. I can't wait to see that lovesick look in those foolish eyes. The 3 men laughed. Serena's legs nearly gave out. She had to brace herself against a pillar. Months wasted. The kisses, the promises, the letters she'd kept against her heart. All lies. All just a careful plan to steal her fortune. Tears burned her eyes, but she blinked them back furiously. Not here. Not in front of them. She had to leave before David saw her and put that cruel performance into motion. Serena looked down at the velvet pouch still tied at her waist. Everything she owned. The fortune David and his accomplices planned to steal. No. The pain began to turn into something else. Something colder, sharper. Anger. They will not have me. Not my money. Not my continued humiliation. But what would she do now? Return to the castle? Face marriage to Harrington with no way out? The thought made bile rise in her throat. There has to be another way. She turned, walking blindly toward the tavern door, needing to breathe, to think. Tears returned, silent and hot, streaming down her face as she pushed into the cold night air. Serena began to walk without direction, vision blurred by tears. That was when she collided with someone. The impact was solid, strong enough to make her lose balance. She was going to fall. But a hand closed firmly around her arm, stopping her fall. Wait! The voice was deep, commanding, carrying weight of authority that made Serena freeze. But there was something else, too. An unexpected softness. Please! Her voice came out broken. Please let me go. I need to leave. She tried to pull free, but the hand didn't loosen. It didn't hurt, wasn't violent, but it was firm, unmovable. You're crying. It wasn't a question. It was an observation stated with absolute certainty. Serena kept her eyes tightly shut, refusing to look at whoever was holding her. That's none of your concern. Please, I need... Look at me. There was command in those words, but also something that sounded genuinely concerned. Fingers touched gently beneath her chin, applying the slightest pressure to lift her face. For a long moment, Serena resisted, but finally, too exhausted to keep fighting, she yielded. She opened her eyes. The man before her stole her breath. He was tall, easily a head and a half above her, with broad shoulders that filled the fine coat he wore. But it was his eyes that held her. Pure silver, glowing in the torchlight like molten moonlight, studying her face with an intensity that made her forget to breathe. Dark hair fell to his shoulders, and there was something in the way he held her, in the way he stood with absolute confidence, that spoke of nobility. "Who is this man? What happened?" he asked, voice lower now, almost gentle. And perhaps it was the shock of David's betrayal still burning. Perhaps it was the desperation of having nowhere to go. Perhaps it was simply that this stranger was looking at her as if he truly cared. The words came before she could stop them. "Something terrible happened," she whispered, voice breaking. He didn't respond immediately, only waited, patient, and she fell apart. "I thought he loved me." The words poured out in a desperate rush. "I risked everything. I planned my escape for weeks, gathered every coin I owned, every jewel. I came here to meet him, to run away with him, because I'd rather die free than live as the property of a man I despise." She sobbed, wiping tears furiously. "But he was in there with 2 other men planning it all. They were going to pretend to help me escape, then rob me, take all my money, and leave me abandoned in some forest, laughing at me, calling me foolish and naive. It was all a lie. Every promise, every kiss, every letter, just an elaborate trap to steal from me. Mine." The thought hit Grayson like lightning the moment he caught her. Instant, primitive, absolute. He shouldn't have been in that village that night. He should have been at the encampment with his retinue, preparing for formal negotiations set to begin at dawn. But the idea of one more night suffocating beneath the weight of the crown had been too much, so he'd slipped out, dressed in simple clothes, though unmistakably fine, wanting only to walk, to breathe, to be a man for a few hours before the role of King Grayson of Silverstead swallowed him again. And then she collided with him. The beast inside him recognized something before his conscious mind could catch up. And when she finally opened her eyes, those deep, emerald eyes bruised and full of pain so raw, something in him simply knew. "She is my mate." "What happened?" he heard himself ask, voice lower, gentler than he meant. And she broke. With every word, Grayson's anger swelled, hot, dangerous. His fingers tightened slightly around her arm. Who dared lay hands on her? Who dared plan to harm her? But he held himself in check, forced his voice to stay calm while he let her pour it all out. And she's brave, he thought. Desperate, but unbelievably brave. When she finally stopped, wiping at tears with angry strokes, he simply kept holding her. It was she who broke the silence in a way he never could have expected. "You can't help me." The words came out like a plea dressed as resignation. "I have nowhere to go. Nothing except—" She touched the pouch at her waist. "Except this." Grayson watched in silence. "It's gold, jewels. It's everything I own in this world." Fresh tears slid down her cheeks. "I was going to give it all to him, that liar. And now I don't know what to do. My father will find me when the sun comes up, and in 3 days I'll be chained to Lord Harrington." She looked up, and Grayson saw the exact moment desperation turned into reckless determination. "But you," she whispered, studying him. "You're a nobleman. The way you carry yourself, the clothes. You have standing, influence." Her hands went to the pouch, and Grayson watched, stunned as she untied it. Torchlight flashed on gold as she opened it, offering it to him with shaking hands. "What is she—" "I have this, a fortune." Her voice strengthened through the tears. "And I'll give it all to you if you marry me." The shock was total. She's asking me to marry her. This woman is trying to buy me. Grayson looked at the pouch, then back into her eyes, bright with tears and yet lit by desperate courage. My mate is offering gold to buy me as her husband. The irony was so perfect, he had to fight, not to laugh. Please, she went on, taking his silence for refusal. I know it sounds insane, a stranger offering money to marry her, but I don't have a choice. If I'm already married, my father can't force me. The contract with Harrington will be void. The tears kept falling, but her resolve was absolute. And then Grayson started to laugh. Not loudly, not cruelly, just a low sound of genuine amusement. Why are you laughing? Offense edged her confusion. I'm not laughing at you. It's just the irony. He took the pouch, and the casual way he held it should have been a clue. What if I told you there's something more permanent than marriage? Something that guarantees no one, neither your father, nor this Lord Harrington, nor any other man, can ever claim you. She blinked. More permanent than marriage? Among our people, there is the claiming bond, his voice dropped, heavy with meaning. A connection that goes beyond papers and vows, recognized above any noble law. Once it's established, no one can undo it. Her eyes widened. Recognition. The claiming bond, she repeated, voice small. My grandmother told stories. She said it was law above any marriage, that it transcended noble agreements. But I thought it was legend. It isn't legend. It's just become rare. She studied him. And you know how to create it? Yes. My grandmother said only pure-blood alphas still held that knowledge. Awe rose in her voice. You're an alpha. It wasn't a question. Yes. Serena looked at the pouch, then at him. Does this bond really nullify the marriage to Harrington? My father wouldn't have the power to take me from you? The bond overrides any human agreement. The moment it's completed, you'll be under my protection. Your father will have no legal power to force you. The contract with Harrington will be void. She processed it, weighing. This wasn't impulsive. It was a conscious choice. And the bond is permanent, she said slowly. My grandmother said once it was made, it couldn't be broken. That it tied two people together forever. Yes. He wouldn't lie to her. Serena stared at him for a long moment. Grayson watched the battle inside her. Fear warring with necessity, doubt with courage. I accept, she said firmly. It has to be my choice. I can't be forced into anything else. I need to offer something so it's a transaction where I have power. So determined to keep her dignity. Then I accept what you're offering, not because I need it, but because offering it matters to you. Hope flickered. So you'll create the bond? Yes, but only if you say it again when you're calmer. Grayson cupped her face gently. I won't trap you in another kind of cage. I need you to be sure, not just desperate. She held his gaze, breathed, and when she spoke, there was absolute strength. I'm sure. I want this. Then come. Grayson guided her down the street. When they passed an alley, he stopped. Marcus. A figure stepped out, power and loyalty radiating from him. Gather 2 guards, the clearing to the north. We need witnesses. Marcus looked from Grayson to Serena, eyes widening. Your Majesty, you... Go. Absolute command. Marcus vanished. Serena looked at Grayson, almost choking on the word. Your Majesty? Why did he... The look Grayson gave her was pure control. Marcus has formal habits. Ignore it. But she didn't ignore it. Your Majesty. The word planted seeds of questions. The clearing opened beneath the full moon, washed in silver. Marcus waited with 2 guards. Grayson turned his attention back to Serena. The bond will be created through a bite. It will be here. He touched lightly where her neck met her shoulder. The place our people recognize. My grandmother described it, Serena murmured. She said it was intimate, that I would feel your instincts, your emotions, and you'd feel mine. Deep and permanent. She took a steadying breath. And you truly want to do this? Yes. Through the touch, she felt absolute certainty. Then do it. I choose this. Grayson stepped closer, his hands settled on her shoulders. Last chance. I'm not changing my mind. Keep your end. He smiled, and then swept her hair aside. Moonlight bathed her skin. The air thickened, charged with something ancient and powerful. Under the moon, I claim you. And he bit. The world exploded. Serena gasped, not from pain, but from sensation. Heat surged from where he bit her, spreading like molten fire through her veins. Her entire body came alive. Sounds sharpened. She could hear the wind whispering through leaves, his breath against her skin, the beat of two hearts pounding closer and closer until she couldn't tell which was hers. And then came the wave of emotions that weren't hers. Fierce satisfaction. Absolute protectiveness. A primitive possessiveness that should have frightened her, but somehow made her feel safe. When Grayson pulled back, Serena was breathing hard. The world had changed. Colors brighter, sounds clearer. And him, his presence a steady pulse inside her like a second heart. What? Her voice failed, and her hand flew to her neck. Is that you? The bond. My emotions. And I feel yours. It was true. Through the connection, she felt his certainty, his strength, and something possessive that made her feel safe in ways she'd never felt before. It worked, she whispered. My father can't force me anymore. No, no one can. You're free. Free? Tears burned, not from pain, but from relief so intense it hurt. I chose this, and it worked. Grayson drew her closer. You were brave, and you'll never be alone again. What do we do now? Grayson studied her face. There was so much she would learn tomorrow. Marcus and the guards will escort you back, but we'll see each other very soon. Sooner than you think. And when that happens, he paused, mysterious smile curving his mouth. A lot is going to change. He took her hands, squeezing firmly. You made the right choice. Trust that. And trust that no matter what you learn tomorrow, I'm on your side. For always. The intensity in his words made her shiver. I trust you. Her words cut through Grayson like a blessed blade. Trust. After being betrayed so brutally, she looked at him with clean eyes, unaware that what bound them went far beyond the claiming bond. She didn't recognize it. Not yet. Her heart had been so fixed on that wretch David, so shattered by betrayal, that when his primal instincts screamed mate the moment they touched, she was too blinded by pain to hear it. She is my Luna, and she has no idea. The irony was almost poetic. She'd offered gold to buy a husband of convenience, never realizing she was offering treasures to a man who already considered every one of her breaths more valuable than all the kingdoms in the world. But he would wait. He would let her discover it in her own time. Tomorrow would bring enough revelations. His identity, his kingdom, the weight of the crown. First, she needed to heal. Then she would see what he'd seen from the start. I don't even know your name, she said. Grayson smiled, promising surprises. You'll learn tomorrow. For now, rest. Back at the castle, Serena lay down, her hand touching the mark. Through the bond, she could feel Grayson at a distance. Satisfaction, certainty, fierce protection, peace. Who are you? Why does everyone treat you like that? Why does Marcus call you Your Majesty? But the questions could wait. For the first time in weeks, and Serena slept without fear. The dawn came far too soon. My lady, you need to wake up. Grace's voice edged with urgency. Your father is demanding your presence in the Great Hall immediately. Serena's heart lurched, but then through the bond she felt something. A calm, solid presence pulsing with absolute certainty. Grayson. Why? Serena asked, sitting up. What happened? There's an important visitor. All the nobles have been summoned. As your father said, it's a matter of utmost diplomatic importance. Through the bond she felt another wave, something that felt almost like amusement. What are you plotting? Grace, I need a high-collared dress, the most formal one we have. The great hall was packed when Serena arrived. Nobles from all over Ravenwood had been summoned, dressed in their finest, all whispering with curiosity. Lord Harrington was there, his bulky body draped in expensive silks. When his eyes found Serena, he smiled, a possessive smile that made her stomach turn. In 3 days, I was supposed to be his. But not anymore. David was there too, dressed as a servant, positioned among the castle workers. When their eyes met, he winked, a conspiratorial gesture. Serena's anger burned cold. He will face judgment. Lord Harrison stood at the center, visibly unsettled. He adjusted his clothes, checked positions, barked orders at servants. "Serena," her father called, waving her closer. "Well, you look presentable." "Good. King Grayson of Silverstead honors us with his presence for crucial territorial negotiations. You will conduct yourself with the utmost dignity. Understood?" Serena nodded. King Grayson. Her father was a powerful ruler, but not a king. And he was about to negotiate with one of the most powerful kings in the werewolf lands. No wonder he was nervous. Through the bond, she felt a presence drawing nearer. Grayson! He's close now. Very close. Her heart sped up. The minutes dragged. The hall held tense silence, everyone waiting. Serena shifted slightly, adjusting her stance, and the collar of her dress slipped. An older maid standing nearby saw it first. Her eyes widened. "My lady," she whispered urgently, reaching for Serena's collar. "Your collar is—" "It's fine." Serena tried to step back, but the maid was already straightening the fabric. And she saw it. The mark, unmistakable, deep, fresh. The maid gasped. The sound far too loud in the silent hall. Lord Harrison stopped mid-conversation and turned sharply. "What is it?" The maid had gone pale. "My lord, your daughter. She bears a mark." Ice flooded Serena's veins. The entire hall froze. Lord Harrison crossed the distance in furious strides, seized Serena by the shoulder, and yanked her collar down. The mark was exposed for all to see. Perfect, fresh, unmistakable. A claiming bite placed exactly where werewolf tradition demanded. The silence that followed was absolute. Then Lord Harrison erupted. "What is this? Serena, what have you done?" She lifted her chin, refusing to shrink. "I took control of my own fate." "Control? You're marked? Who? Who dared touch you without my permission?" "No one touched me without my permission," Serena replied, steel in her voice. "I consented fully and knowingly. I chose this." Lord Harrington had stepped forward, face twisted. "She's ruined. Our contract is void." "That was the point," Serena said, looking straight at him. "I'd take anything over belonging to you." The slap came fast. Her father's hand struck her cheek hard enough to snap her head to the side. Pain flared sharp and hot. "You've ruined everything," her father was shouting. "Years of negotiations. Who was it? Tell me so I can kill him and end this farce." "You will not lay a hand on him," Serena said, voice low but loaded with certainty. "And he is not just any werewolf." "Then who?" Lord Harrington demanded. The great hall door slammed open. Grayson stepped in, and there was nothing simple about him now. He wore royal attire, black and silver fabrics that screamed power and bloodline, a cloak flowing behind him. Dark hair was partly pulled back, revealing a face that was both devastatingly handsome and utterly unforgiving. And his eyes, those silver eyes that had looked at her with gentleness, now burned with fire, in barely contained fury rolling off him in waves. No, it can't be. But it was. Marcus entered at his side, wearing Silverstead's colors, and behind them came a retinue of royal guards. The entire hall dropped into deep reverence. Nobles bowed, servants knelt. Lord Harrison went deathly pale, dropping to his knees. "Your Majesty, I had no idea. We were expecting you, but—" Grayson didn't look at him. He didn't look at anyone. His eyes went straight to Serena. He crossed the hall in measured steps, every movement heavy with authority and barely restrained fury. Serena stood frozen as the truth crashed over her. The man I offered gold to, the stranger who accepted my desperate offer, he was King Grayson of Silverstead. Humiliation burned through her, tangled with shock. He knew all along. But through the bond, she felt his answer. Not mockery, fury at her pain, satisfaction at finally revealing himself, and something deeper. Mine. Has someone touched what is mine? Grayson stopped directly in front of her, so close she could feel the heat of his body. And then, with a gentleness that clashed violently with the fury pulsing through the bond, he lifted his hand and touched her cheek where the red imprint of the slap was still visible. Who, his voice came out low and dangerous, echoing through the silent hall, dared to hurt you? Lord Harrison, still on his knees, went even paler. No one answered. Great fear was thick in the air. I asked, Grayson said, his eyes still on Serena. Who dared to lay hands on her? Finally, a voice shook from the floor. Lord Harrison, Your Majesty. I didn't know that Your Majesty had... Grayson turned slowly, eyes locking onto Lord Harrison. You struck her. I didn't know, Lord Harrison stammered. My daughter, she marked herself without permission. Ruined years of planning. I didn't know it was Your Majesty who... Ah, the word was ice cold. So you would have had permission to strike her if she weren't my mate. Is that what you're telling me? Lord Harrison opened his mouth, then shut it, unable to answer. Grayson turned back to Serena and with a deliberate motion pulled her collar fully aside, exposing the mark for everyone to see clearly. She bears my mark, Grayson said, voice carrying with absolute authority. She is my mate, my queen, and you have just made the mistake of hurting her. The hall erupted in shocked gasps. Queen. He called her Queen. Through the chaos, Serena heard whispers. The king's mate. She'll be Silverstead's queen. Your Majesty, I beg forgiveness. Lord Harrison was visibly trembling. I didn't know she was your daughter, Grayson cut him off, voice like steel, is no longer yours to command or punish. She is under my protection, and whether in my presence or not, anyone who touches her without her consent will answer to me personally. The threat hung in the air, is clear and lethal. Grayson looked at Lord Harrington, who stood trembling. As for you and your ridiculous contract, it is void. The claiming bond overrides any human agreement. I suggest you forget any claim you thought you had over her. Harrington shook his head frantically. No, Your Majesty, I have no claim. I beg forgiveness. Out! Get out of my sight! Harrington practically fled. Grayson turned back to Serena, and when he spoke, his voice softened. Only for her. Well, are you all right? It was the same question as last night. The same impossible gentleness beneath all that fury. All this time, Serena whispered. You're the king. You were always the king. Yes, I always was. I offered you gold, she whispered, shame scorching her. I proposed marriage to the richest king in the lands, as if you needed it. And I accepted, Grayson replied, voice low but steady. Because you chose me without knowing what came with that title. Why, you were brave enough to take control of your fate, and that matters more than any crown. Through the bond, she felt his absolute sincerity. Come, Grayson said, holding out his hand. You need to leave this hall, and I need to step away from your father before my patience runs out completely. Serena looked at the offered hand, looked at the hall full of stunned eyes, looked at her father still on his knees, visibly terrified. And she placed her hand in his. Grayson laced their fingers together, firm and warm, then turned to the hall. The territorial negotiations will be postponed, he declared with authority that allowed no argument. My mate and I have matters to settle. Marcus will remain for preliminary discussions with Lord Harrison. I will return when I am ready. As they walked out, fingers interlocked, Serena heard the hall erupt into frantic conversation. But it didn't matter anymore. For the first time in her life, she wasn't alone. Later that afternoon, David faced trial in the Great Hall. The servant who'd overheard the plot testified. The evidence was damning. Grayson asked Serena for her verdict. "You called me a fool," Serena said, her voice carrying clearly as she stood before David. "And maybe I was foolish to trust. But I learned something. Being brave enough to trust isn't weakness. It's strength. Because even after you betrayed me, I still had the courage to try again." Her voice grew stronger. "I made a desperate proposal to a stranger, and that stranger saw me, not as a fool, but as someone worth choosing." She turned, walking back with steady steps. "So yes, I agree with whatever sentence His Majesty proposes. Because you chose greed, you chose cruelty, and now you'll live with the consequences." The sentence was permanent banishment from all werewolf lands. When it was over, Serena sent for her father. When he arrived, caution lined every part of him. "Sit down," Serena said, pointing to a chair. He obeyed. That alone said everything. "You sold me," she said, voice calm but heavy with truth. "As if I were livestock." She took a deep breath. "But I survived. Not because of you. In spite of you. I found my own courage. I made my own choices. And I built my own way out." She placed a document before him. "This is an official renunciation. Ravenwood relinquishes any claim over me. Any attempt to interfere will result in immediate severance of trade and alliances." Lord Harrison took the document with trembling hands. "You're cutting me off completely," he said. "No," Serena corrected. "I'm freeing myself. There's a difference. If you sign this, if you respect my boundaries, maybe one day we can have some kind of relationship. But it will be on my terms, not yours." Heavy silence filled the room. He began, voice breaking. "Serena, I'm sorry. Not just for selling you, but for never seeing you. For never asking what you wanted. For spending your entire life treating you like a piece on a board instead of my daughter." Tears filled his eyes. Real, not manipulative. "You deserved better. You deserved a father who protected you, not one who sold you. And I failed completely." Serena felt something tighten in her chest. Not full forgiveness, but something. A beginning, perhaps. "I don't know if I can forgive you," she said honestly. "Not now. Maybe not ever completely. What you did left scars." "I know," he whispered. "But I also won't carry this weight forever. I won't let what you did define who I am." She pointed to the document. "Sign it, and let me move on." Lord Harrison signed, hands shaking. "Thank you," Serena said simply. "For signing, for apologizing, for finally seeing me." She stepped closer, touched his shoulder briefly. "I don't owe you obedience anymore, but I give you back your humanity. You are my father. That doesn't change. But who we are to each other, that will depend on you, on the choices you make from here on. Goodbye, Father." It wasn't see you later. It was goodbye. Final. Definitive. The next morning, Serena found Grayson in the courtyard, waiting beside the carriage. Grace was inside, nervous but excited. Guards were positioned, horses ready. "Ready?" Grayson held out his hand. Serena looked back at the castle one last time, and she felt nothing, and no longing, no regret, no pain, only peace. "I left a long time ago," she said, taking his hand. Grayson smiled and helped her into the carriage. As the procession began to move, Serena didn't look back. Her past was sealed. Her father had his apology and her boundaries. David was banished. Harrington had fled. And she was free. Through the window, she watched Grayson riding, dark hair gleaming in the rising sun, silver eyes occasionally flicking to the carriage. My mate, my king, my chosen. For the first time in her life, Serena wasn't running from something. She was running toward something. Toward Silverstead. Toward her new kingdom. Toward a life that would be her own. "Where have your thoughts gone, my lady?" Grace asked timidly. Serena smiled, touching the mark on her neck that still pulsed with warmth. "To the future," she said. only to the future. And as the carriage rolled on, leaving Ravenwood behind for good, and Serena closed her eyes and let the bond wrap around her, through it she felt Grayson, his satisfaction, his joy, his fierce pride in her, and something deeper. Something that was beginning to feel dangerously like love. Later, she thought, smiling. We'll explore that later. For now, it was enough to be free. It was enough to have chosen.